Hello and welcome. This is Mouse Gunner, and we're back with some more automation, the Car Company Tycoon game, continuing on with the campaign roleplay of the Edison Car Company in 1996. In my last video, I built the base engine for the Luna, and now it's time to move on to our next model, which is the Star, which is our mid-size family sedan. And we're going to first put it in the appropriate year, 1996. And the first engine we're going to build is going to be an inline 4. And I think I'm going to go with an aluminum block and head for this engine. I'm also going to want it to be a 2-liter engine. But I'm going to want the bore and stroke, the bore to be a little bit larger than the stroke, a little bit more short stroke of an engine. There we go. That's probably okay. Just about what I want. And we got the 2 liters. So let's move on. We've got a single overhead cam, 2 valves per cylinder. Going to go with an aluminum head. And we'll skip over variable valve lift for now. We didn't use that in the Luna. We might not use it for this engine either. All right. We're going to go with cast, hypereutectic, cast. And I'm not going to make a different variant capacity here. For compression, I'll bring that down to 8 for now. Keep the cam profile as it is. Let's mess with the styling here. We want a little bit more modern of a look. Looks like that's going to be it. And for the Star, I'll go with... we'll go with blue. All right, moving along. Gonna make this naturally aspirated. And injection, and we made the Luna engine multi-point EFI, so we might as well make this engine the same. And we're gonna do regular unleaded for the fuel, and we're gonna bring the fuel, the ignition timing down, just to prevent knocking if it occurs. We're gonna go with short cast, keep the exhaust as it is, but we want a 3-way cat with a single reverse flow muffler for now. All right, let's go ahead and run the engine. All right, not bad for the initial start. Now, for me, what I would say my low end would probably be 110, and my upper end would be 130. So I'm looking for that range, 110, 130. I think that's appropriate for an engine of this size in this time period. So let's work on that first. Now, the exhaust diameter may not be appropriate. So first, let's start by making it larger. That was worse. Let's make it smaller. That's worse as well. So let's keep it at 1.75 for now. And loudness is at 42.3. We did another reverse flow. That would lower that down. Not sure if that's the route I'm going to go, though. Let's just keep it as is for now. We have a lot of fuel octane to work. For the fuel mixture, I'm going to be bringing that down. Economy is key. And ignition timing is more than likely going to go up, but we are going to have to change the RPM limit here. Figure out where our performance index peak is. Now, we're starting to have reliability concerns at this point. 6,100, we start having some problems with our conrods and piston. So let's continue just to see where the peak performance index is. I believe it looks like about 6,500, but we can keep in mind all this engine can really take is 6,100. That's exactly where our power comes in. So not ideal. Maybe making this a higher revving engine with that shorter stroke was not the right move to make. But let's move around with other things first, and then we'll come back and address that. So let's stop off with the compression here. I want to bring that up to... I'd like to get it up to 9, but we might not have room for that. All right, we can get it up to 9, which gets us close to 100 horsepower. Of course, I'm looking for a minimum of 110, and I would say unhappy if I didn't get it to that. Alright, so cam profile. Do we want to cut that off and make it a lower revving engine? Now, keeping in mind, as we do this, our fuel octane is going to be being adjusted as well. Of course, changing the ignition timing might do the job for us as well. So there we go. 5,800 bumps up to 6,000. We actually want it in that 5,800 range if we can get it there. And we're probably at the point where we're going to start knocking anytime soon. So we got it to 6,000 with our ignition timing. Keeping in mind, though, if we bring the ignition timing to its max, we're going to have a little bit of issues with knocking if we change the cam profile. So right now it's at 5,800. Let's change the cam profile here and bring it down a little bit. All right, so that's not going to do us much good. And that's not really doing us much good. Kind of in this limbo area where we're not being able to do a whole lot with this. For now, I think I'm actually going to bring the ignition timing back up. I don't think it does us much good to not have it there. So maybe making this a short-stroke engine that's higher revving is not the right way to go about this, as we're having some issues with our parts. Of course, we could switch to forged parts, which would eliminate the reliability concerns, but that would increase our cost, which is not really what I'm looking for. Also, it would make our emissions worse as well. So I'm actually not sure how to approach this. Do variable valve timing. We're honestly nowhere near where I'd like to be as far as power. I honestly think I have to go back here and maybe redesign this, make it maybe longer stroke. Although technically, in theory, by doing that, what I'm doing is I'm making it hurt worse for revving higher. So maybe I actually want it more short stroke. Let's just see what happens if we bring the stroke up. Is that going to change where that RPM comes in? I'm not seeing that being the case. So what we probably want to do is actually bring the stroke even shorter. Not sure where it was before. It was there. Let's bring the stroke down and bring the bore up to match. Now hopefully that will actually increase the way that the engine is able to handle the RPM. Let's check that out. So 6,100 used to be where we were having issues. Now we can get up to 6,200. 6,300 is our limit. So that did actually work. And if we could get it back into that 5,800 range, I think I would be happy. Matter of fact, that actually improved horsepower too, didn't it? So we have a lot of reasons to do that. All right, so we're in 5,800. This is giving me 400 RPM beyond that. Now, that's not going to be our peak RPM. Our peak RPM is probably going to still be out close to, yeah, it's at 6,500. But we can't afford that as far as reliability is concerned. So right here, I'm at 99 horsepower. Now, I was looking for 110 horsepower, but I definitely need to get it above 100. Without a shadow of a doubt, I need to get it above 100. So what can I do to do that? Well, I can slap on variable valve timing. That will for sure get me to 100. Huh. Really caught in a position where I'm not really sure I can get this to work in my favor. So that doesn't help. That doesn't help. Okay. So we need this to be at least 100. So we're going to do variable valve timing. There's no reason not to. Of course, it does push up the RPM to where I don't want it to be. What happens if we move the cam profile? That's going to push it up as well. Just one of those things I don't know if we can avoid. Well, that brought it back. I'm just messing with the cam profile here to see what we get out of it. That's knocking. We don't want that. Alright, so that point I like. So we got 6,000. We're at above 100. 130 horsepower might have been optimistic, honestly, for this engine, but we're bumping up from a 1.6 liter engine up to a 2 liter engine, and we're barely getting 10 horsepower benefit out of doing that change. So I'm really not happy where we are. And these parts are really not handling how high revving this engine is, but it looks like to me we can't do a whole lot about that, other than continuing to tweak these numbers. So let's bring this up, then bring this down, so that we get back to 2 liters. All right, let's see what we can do now. Yeah, it starts knocking immediately. So, not knocking, having parts reliability issues. So we're not really changing it that much unless we continue on this course. Bring it up to 87.5, bring it down to 2 liters, roughly 2 liters. I mean, the engine's starting to run less and less smooth. I might actually be hurting. Oh, no, see, yeah, it did work. We're able to push it, but see, for every drastic change I do, it only gives us that little bit of room. And I'm sure the peak performance is still at 6,500. Huh. I'm really stumped on this one. Now, variable valve lift isn't going to help us at all. That's going to actually hurt us. As we can see, that's going to push things way out. Now, it's going to give us the power we're looking for, but it's going to bring it all high revving, which is what we're trying to avoid. See if we can get it. There we go. Let's see if we can, as a result of that change, get a little bit more RPM out of it. Nope. All right. Huh. Well, we got more reliability out of those changes. Should we continue? I mean, that continues to help our... It's actually helping our smoothness as well now. Maybe there was this area we just kind of needed to pass to get things working more reliable. I want it to be 2 liters exactly if I can. There we go. All right. Let's see where we are now. Okay, it allows me to do 6,400. We're starting to have some valve float, but I'm okay with valve float. All right. So 6,500 is still our peak. But we can safely get it to 6,400. That makes me a lot happier. To the point where I feel a little bit safer bumping this up. All right, so we had knocking at that point. All right, so we're up to 100. And we have variable valve timing. Let's see if we can push the cam profile now. So it's at 6,100. We may not want, but here we're at 102. Let's just keep pushing it. Let's get it up to... Get up to 49. A bare minimum, I want 110. I'm dead set on that. Let's see what happens when we match it with ignition timing. All right, we were able to get it back down. right, so we're knocking there. 111 horsepower, 112 foot-pounds of torque. I'm happy where we are. Let's just check where the peak performance is. It's still at 6,500. We're coming a little short of that, but I'm a little bit happier with the way things worked. So it took a lot of fiddling to get it where I wanted it, above 110, in the 110 to 130 range. 130 is really optimistic. Getting it to 110, I think, gets us in the realm of where we want to be. Again, I'd love it to be better than this. But from the 1.6 liter engine we had before to this 2 liter engine, we have an improvement of almost 20 horsepower. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's just check things over, make sure we're not missing anything. So we're not going to do variable valve lift for obvious reasons. I would not do that unless the engine could take the abuse. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with where we're at. Let's just make sure the exhaust diameter is correct, which it is. All right, so I'm pretty happy with what we got. Let's go ahead and name this engine. I'm going to name it the SB 2.0, and this is the 96 version. And I'm going to call it the SNA. Okay, and that stands for Star Naturally Aspirated. Yeah, my names are really super creative for my engines, but oftentimes engines are just a series of numbers and letters anyway, so I'm not the only one that's not creative. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this engine. Compare it to the Luna engine just really quickly. So we didn't quite get 20 horsepower improvement, but it's close enough to it. We definitely got more than 20 foot-pounds of torque improvement. Responsiveness is a little bit lower. Smoothness is worse. I come to expect that with a larger displacement engine that's an inline-4. Loudness is a little bit worse. I think that makes sense. Reliability is down. Weight is down. That's the aluminum there. We have a little bit worse economy. Same fuel octane. Emissions a lot better. Production units up, cost up, and there's obvious reasons for that. First, it's a bigger engine, but we're also using an aluminum block and an aluminum head, which is going to be where a lot of the cost is coming from. Now, the reason I did an aluminum block and an aluminum head is to keep the weight closer to the 1.6 liter engine. So if this engine does fit in the Luna, it's not going to change the weight dynamics of the Luna too much. But I don't know if it will fit. Okay, so let's now move on to the other engine I'd like to build, which I'd like to build a V6, which is going to be an optional engine for the Star. Okay, let's bring the year to the right one, 1996. I'm going to be using a V6. And it's going to be cast iron or aluminum. I'm torn on this one. I think I'm going to make this one cast iron. This is going to be the cheaper V6 that we make. And I'd like it to be 3 liters for the Star. Should we make it 3.6? I'm going to go with 3 for the Star, and then we might have a 3.6 liter variant for other builds. So looks like we're going to have roughly the same. I'm going to do the same thing I did before, though. Let's get it down. Make it much more short stroke. So try and get it even. Not quite. Not quite. This one might do it. There we go. 3 liters even. 87.9 and 82.4. We're going to do another single overhead cam engine, 2 valves per cylinder, and it's going to be cast as well. We'll go with cast, and the same pistons we've been using thus far, as it does help with emissions. I'm not going to make a variant of this engine. And this more or less will only probably end up in the Star. We'll probably have a different engine for the Constellation. Maybe. Well, I'll think about it. Compression I'm going to bring down to 8, just so that we allow for the engine not to knock on our first run. Cam profile, I'll keep at 40. We'll make this naturally aspirated. Injection. Might as well be multi-point. Electronic fuel injection. We'll go with single. And we want to keep it with regular. All right. Ignition timing we're going to bring down just to be on the safe side. And I want short cast. Probably single for this engine. If I made a variant of this for the Constellation, it would be a dual exhaust. But again, I'm not positive on whether or not I would have this engine in the Constellation. Go with the three-way cat. And we'll go with a single reverse flow muffler. All right, let's run things. I don't expect this will break. All right, so as far as color changes, I noticed the exhaust is restrictive for this engine. Let's go immediately change that. Oops, wrong tab. So we're going to want to go up to 2 inches. So that brought it up to 145. Let's do one more. And that has no meaningful change that I could tell. We'll keep it at 2 inches for now, which is going to allow us for 178 horsepower, which is probably fine with the power we're getting right now. Now, as far as a goal for this engine, I honestly don't have one. We're just going to have to play it by ear. Let's move along here and bring the fuel mixture down. That's going to rob us of power, obviously. I'm not going to mess with the ignition timing just yet. Move to the compression. Let's bring that up to maybe 9, although I don't know if I'm going to go quite that high. Yeah, we can get away with 9, so we're at 46. We're definitely going to need to change the RPM limit, so why don't we do that now? So, keep going. All right, so we're still safe here, so we're not having the issues we were having with the other engine. And that's because we designed it from the start to be okay, probably. All right, and peak performance index appears to be at 6,400, which is great because 6,500 is where we start running into problems. And we have some valve float, but you often encounter valve float with any build you're doing if you're really pushing things to the limit. And this is a pretty fairly reliable engine so far without much tweaks. So let's bring the ignition timing up as far as it will allow me to do so. And this has actually brought the RPM where the power comes in down, which is okay. All right, so that's the knock point right there. All right, so currently, are we at the peak? 6,500 still appears to be the peak. So we'll keep it at 6,400 for reliability's sake. All right, so we've got close to 150. And obviously, we want a substantial performance improvement over our inline 4. We have a full liter of extra displacement to work with. And currently, we're getting close to 40 horsepower improvement, which is decent. Okay, let's go to variable valve timing. We're more than likely going to take this, so we might as well. And that is going to change how the power comes in, but I don't think it will change where our peak performance index is, and I'm fine with that. And it's also going to improve things in a lot of other ways as well, so why not? Let's move back, though, just to check where our performance index is at. So again, it's 6,500, so we're happy where we are. Let's make sure our exhaust diameter is where it needs to be. It is not, which I suspected it wouldn't be. So 2.25 inches seems to be correct for a single exhaust system. So we're at 152. Now we're definitely a 40 horsepower improvement over the 2-liter engine. So let's see how we can push things further. I think we can do with some cam profile adjustment. Now this may change where the peak performance index comes in. It may not. Maybe get it to 45. We can get it above 160, which I am pretty pleased with. And if we go to there, got 165 horsepower. I think I'm going to bring it down to, let's do it at 48. And the reason I did that is because I'm fairly certain I can make up our performance fall off with the ignition timing. As we can see there, we're now at 167 and 167 even. But honestly, I'd like to get the horsepower above the foot-pounds of torque. And there's our point of knocking. So we're still even, more or less, power and torque. Okay, so let's check out where our peak is. So it's still at 6,500, which we can't afford. We're going to stick with 6,400. And honestly, I think I'm pretty happy with this. I was thinking getting it around 170 probably would be nice. And we're pretty darn close to that. Let's just double check our exhaust diameter here. So up a point does nothing for us, which I didn't think it would. Loudness, we're about the same loudness as we were in the other engine in the Star, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now this engine's probably going to be a lot heavier because it's cast. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy for more or less. Let's see what variable valve lift does for us in this engine, though. Yeah, it's going to push us beyond where we want to be. But not actually too bad. But I think I'm happy where I am with this engine. So let's go ahead and name this one. And I think I'm going to call this one the SV 3.0. And this is going to be the 96 variant. And I'm going to call this one the S and A as well, so we know where we are with that. So we could easily make a Constellation variant of this engine, and my quick adjustments would be more or less probably a switch to a dual exhaust system if I were to use this engine, and then other tweaks besides. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with this engine. Let's do a overall comparison now with all the engines we have thus far. So we've got the two engines possibly for the Star. We've got the 4-cylinder inline 4 with 2-liter displacement, and we're getting 111 versus 168, 112 versus 168. Same responsiveness, a little bit smoother with the V6. The same loudness, which I think I remembered that being the case. More reliable. Getting on par with the Luna engine. But it's not aluminum, so that might be part of it. Weight, it's the heaviest engine we've built so far. I kind of expected that. Economy-wise, percentage-wise, it's about the same as the inline 4, which technically is not what we want to see. Let's see, with the economy, we've got 18.11%. Yeah, the V6 is slightly better. Of course, we have to take into account the weight and the effect that would have on the completed vehicle. This would technically have worse economy as a result of more than 100 pounds of difference. So I don't think we should worry about that too much. And emissions, this is worse than our 2-liter engine. I wonder if aluminum has an effect on this. I'm going to guess it does. Production units, it's more. That makes sense. And it costs more. Again, that makes sense. So overall, not bad with the engines we have. And the next model we'll be probably working with is the Constellation. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. This is Mouse Gunner signing out.